know, it might seem odd to start a bus conversion video here in my living room, but if I'm honest with you, I think that is where most of these projects start. In our living rooms, maybe our bedrooms, late nights spent up dreaming about the life we want to live and the bus that we want to live it in. So in today's video, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start here in my living room. I got my computer in front of me, and we are gonna go bus shopping because let's be honest, that is one of the hardest, most exciting, and irreversible choices we are going to make in this whole journey. In today's video, we're gonna hop on the auction sites, take a peek at what's out there. We're gonna do it live in real time. I haven't looked at any of these yet. And we're gonna take a look at the buses out there that are for sale and see which ones are worth investing our time and money and effort in as we build the home of our dreams, and which ones we should probably skip over because a penny saved here is not necessarily a penny earned down the road. My name's Chuck Cassidy. Let's log on to that interweb and see what's for sale. Interweb? Did I say interweb? If we're gonna get started looking for the bus of our dreams to build the house of our dreams so we can live the life of our dreams, the best place to start is on the internet, am I right? So I'm gonna share my screen with you. I've got my laptop open and we're gonna start by hitting up the auction sites, and that's what we're gonna focus on for this video. I'm probably gonna do another video in the future about what to look for and what it's like if you're buying a bus from a private party off of Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. But today we're gonna stick to the auctions because that really is the place where you have the potential to get the best bang for your buck, the perfect bus, something that's hopefully been maintained and is recently out of service. But we have to remember, the auctions are cruel and unforgiving, and if you win the bid on a bus that isn't good and you show up, maybe you fly across the country to pick it up, you could be in a world of hurt. So I've been there, and today's video is gonna be about avoiding that. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what we have going on the screen here. And I have not looked at any of these sites. I think maybe we should start. Let's go to Public Surplus. So my favorite auction sites on the internet out there, we've got Gov Deals and Public Surplus. They have really good selection. We'll go with Public Surplus. Surplus.com, look at this. And let's see what we get. We're gonna go in there. So if you've never done the internet auction thing, welcome to the club. That's a lot of fun. We're gonna head over to the motor pool here and select school bus. Not every auction house is as organized as far as their website is concerned as Public Surplus. They've got a great one. Gov Deals is another website, and I don't like their organization as much. There are also other sites like Ritchie Brothers and things like that. They all have their own different things. Ritchie Brothers is awesome. If we have time, maybe we'll get into one of their auctions because sometimes they will do a pre-auction inspection for you or a pre-purchase inspection where they actually will inspect the vehicle, post photos of various aspects, and then even give them a judgment or an assessment on the condition of those aspects, which is really cool. Anyway, here we are. Let's scroll down. So we are taking a look at this. So one thing that I think is important before we start here is to imagine what kind of bus are we looking for, right? We want a bus that is going to be a good platform for building a home on. Now, we all have different ideas about the kind of bus that we would like to build. Some of us want to build maybe a short bus that's a weekend camper. Some people want a 40-foot rig for their whole family to full-time in for years on end. Maybe other people want a mid-size bus. So we're not going to be too picky about the kind of bus. We are going to be picky about whether or not an individual bus is a good example of that style, okay? So we've got our cutaway short buses, we've got our full frame short buses, we've got our mid-size front engine buses that are short but flat fronted on the front, and then we've got our full-size 40-foot buses that come in all flavors, the dog nose, the hood, flat front engined, and a flat front rear engined. And then we'll see what else comes up. Maybe some shuttle buses. I don't know. I have not looked at these websites beforehand. So I think it's gonna be fun. Let's get in here and see what is going on. So right off the hop, I am intrigued by this 1991 GMC Bluebird. So let's see what's going on here. We got $1,000 is the bid here. And let's look, it says can run, needs towed. Well, okay, interesting. So this is a gas bus. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and say this is probably out of the question for us. It's a cool bus. I honestly like the aesthetic of these old GMC buses. But as I look at it, I think that is a cool bus. It's an old bus. I actually do love these old Bluebird dashes. That's the bus. Those are the buses that I didn't grow up driving. I was an adult already, but those were the buses I drove when I was a bus driver. Okay, so let's not worry about that one. That's too bad. Let's pick it down here, and we're not going to look through all of them, but these first two off the hop, being the oldest, I'm a sucker for the old buses, and I think you might want to consider preferring older buses too, if you can find a good specimen. Now, if it's dilapidated and needs a ton of work, this is all out the window. But if you can find an older bus that has a good engine, a nice diesel engine with low miles, it's really advantageous because it is more than likely all mechanical with no computer, so it's going to be very simple to maintain. It's not going to be quite as fuel efficient, but it's also going to lack complicated electronics and also emissions systems. And I love clean air. I have no problems with emission systems, but when a bus, which is a like fleet service type vehicle, goes out of commercial or fleet service, maintaining a complex diesel emission system becomes very cost prohibitive. And for people like you and I don't think it's a good fit, frankly. I think it's great when there's a fleet, it cuts lots of emissions. In those early years, there's minimal maintenance and it all works out. But if you buy an older bus, this is just one other system, a very expensive system that has to be functioning in order to keep your bus going down the road. It's as expensive, honestly, as like a transmission. It's like having a whole nother thing that costs, $5,000 to $10,000. It has to be working for your bus to work. So with that in mind, I really do think these older buses, they have an allure, right? They are much simpler to maintain if you want to maintain them yourself. They can be hard to find parts for though. Okay, so let's take a look at this. 97 Bluebird, so the odds are good that it could be all mechanical. It runs, it's a diesel. We like that. So what's going on? 1995 Bluebird. Let's see. Okay, so it's on an international chassis. So these conventional buses, right, they will have a chassis, which is like the hood and this lower cowl, and then the frame and the rear axle. And then the bus company, Bluebird, Thomas, whatever, drops their body right on top. So this is an international frame and chassis with a Bluebird coach on it, coachwork. I like this because it's probably a DT466. Let's see what we can get to prove that. It looks clean. I'm not seeing any rust. Like, look at that frame. That frame looks really nice. These tires are looking pretty good. This is fun. Who cares, right, what the floor looks like? There's a pencil in there. I'm looking at the frame here. I'm seeing very minimal rust. This cable here, to me, that's an indicator that this is an all mechanical diesel engine. That looks like a either throttle cable or what cable could that be? Transmission modulator? I don't know. But the tires are looking good. This is looking promising, honestly. It's very common, these fiberglass hoods, that clear coat there, it'll start to peel off. Pretty common. Boy, look at that motor. That is a clean looking motor. So this is I don't know if it's computerized or not yet at this point, but it is definitely the next generation, the NGD International DT466. We're loading. What's going on here? These seats are torn up. Like, honestly, who cares? Okay, so this right here, you see that? That's the injection pump. It's all mechanical. That's a Bosch P.1 injection pump. So this is the best version of the DT466, in my opinion, that was ever made, because it's all mechanical. But what they did in like 1993 is they updated the engine block, I think knowing that they were going to have to electrify the engine and make it computer controlled. So they went ahead and did a full revision on the engine block. They updated a lot of things. They improved a lot of weaknesses on the old DT466 engine. And then for the time being, used the Bosch P.1 P pump, which is the same one that you'll find on Cummins engines. It's a really awesome, easy to upgrade P pump that's super common running the injection system. And they stuck that on there, and then later, of course, they replaced that with a computer-controlled HUI injection system. Whatever, I'm getting techie, but looking at this, I see what appears to be a really clean engine. There's some dampness here. It could be, I mean, from anything, honestly. It looks like the washer fluid reservoir is up top there. But this is like really looking good. I didn't catch how many miles it has. We'll have to double check that. But the tires all look pretty good. Who knows how old they are. Okay, 216,000 miles. That's getting up there for sure. But it might not be a deal breaker, you know. This could have been a rural district. You know, so we'll keep scrolling, you know. Let's take a look through. These are all pictures. So that's the last picture. I gotta say, so looking at this looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 window, but it's like probably 38, 39 feet, not quite a 40 footer. Big bus. It's a bare bones bus. It's all mechanical. I bet it's got the Allison MT643, great transmission. And this thing will probably run a long time. It doesn't have a lot of great amenities, you know, it doesn't have under bay storage. And it's interesting here, I'm just noticing the mileage, there's a discrepancy. It's saying 177. The pic of the odometer said 2 something. So anyway, but for 2,500 bucks, the reserve isn't met. I'm curious what that is. We'll see what it goes for. That's a cool bus. I like it. I'm a fan. Let's keep going. I don't know how I have these sorted. Should we sort them by, okay, that was time left. I like that because this will give us the most maybe accurate guess of what things will sell for. And we'll look at a few more here and see what's going on. So if I'm looking for a bus, I personally am looking for something that's probably pre-2010 still. And that's because of those emissions requirements. In 2010, that was a step up year. So was 2004, and so was 2007. If you can find something pre-2004, boy, that's gonna be nice because that means it's probably gonna have no emissions equipment on it. After 2004, you're always probably gonna have EGR, which is exhaust gas recirculation, and some other types of emissions controls. Exhaust gas recirculation is totally cool. It's a very simple thing. It's, of all the emissions controls, probably the easiest one to maintain. The only drawback to that, which we can debate how serious it is or not, is that because it's recirculating exhaust gas back into the intake where it is then reburned, you have a lot of soot particulate that ends up back into the intake, the fresh air intake for the motor. What can happen is that soot then gets washed down the cylinder walls and into your crankcase oil. And that can, you know, soot is a fundamentally, it's like ash, I guess, you know, it's an abrasive compound. It's not good for your engine. And keeping soot levels to a minimum is always important when you look at your oil. The engine in my bus has no EGR, and that oil, it is still honey colored, which is really kind of odd for a diesel engine. But it is still honey colored, and I've got, well, it's dark honey, but I've got probably 5,000 miles on that oil change. Now, if you've ever changed the oil on a lot of other diesels, that stuff turns black on day one. And I would say that a lot of that is because of an EGR system. It's putting that soot back into your oil. And so a lot of people will run actually dual oil filter setups called a bypass oil filter setup just for getting that ultra fine particulate in the soot out of their oil. That's a diatribe, not a diatribe, it's a rant about EGR systems, but they're good. They're great at lowering the most harmful types of emissions. And I say this all as somebody who has spent enough time around diesel engines to legitimately be concerned about the health consequences I'm gonna have to live with. Like, this to me is not a political issue. It's like diesel engines pollute like f***ing crazy, pardon my French. And I've been breathing their fumes for a long time, and frankly, like, I don't like being around that because I want to live as long as possible. I think that's reasonable. So I'm not anti-emissions controls. I am very much for them, but there is a line at which the cost to maintain them and whether or not that works with your budget, you know, they intersect, and you probably shouldn't buy one of those motors if you can't afford to maintain them. Anyway, after 2004, everything's got an EGR. Around 2007, we started seeing, I think, diesel particulate filters. I'm sure some of you have more information. You can chime in and throw that down there. And after 2010, pretty much everything's got a DEF system, which is a diesel exhaust fluid system. in addition to any of the other systems. And where we're at now, I don't even know, because to be honest, I don't think I've had a chance to really get into a bus that is newer than a 2016. So, wow. Let's get back to the bus shopping though. That's what this is all about. So let's go check this out. What do we have here? So let's scroll down and see what we can find. So I see tons, and one thing to know too, these auction sites, I've noticed they orient themselves to geographic regions. A lot of the Western buses or Western region is covered by public surplus. And that's a great place to buy a bus. Out here in the West, especially the desert Southwest, minimal snow, no salt, rust concerns are very small, mildew, mold, all that, very minimal. So we're gonna maybe limit ourselves to just some of these buses in the desert Southwest, unless we see something cool and we have to check it out from somewhere else. But so we're gonna look through here, let's look for something. We're gonna say we wanna be older than 2010. I think that's good. And let's say we wanna try to find a bus that, look at all these Thomas school buses in Arizona. Let's see what they're doing. And they're all selling, well, they must be listed for around 6,000. Yeah, no bids here. Let's see what they think these are worth, because I'm curious about that. Cummins engine, ISB, whatever. Relatively low mileage. Batteries did not start vehicle. A few minor parts removed from bus. And they're asking 6,000 bucks. I'm just gonna say off the hop, probably a pass. That is a desirable motor. Looks clean. It's definitely, it's from Arizona. I think we're gonna pass on that though. Too much money, not enough bus. Let's scroll down a bit and see what we got here. Did we miss anything? Utah often has, you gotta love the Mormons. They really have a lot of children, which keeps the school bus action happening. So let's see, we got a 2007 Bluebird in Utah. That could be really promising. It's only at 2,000 bucks. So the Cat C7, boop, it's a bus that has a bit of a reputation. It's not the best, but honestly, it could be a very good engine. As long as it's not the A cert. So there's the Cat C7 and there's the Cat C7 A cert, which from my understanding is where things got a lot worse. I just haven't seen a lot of Cat motors here in Colorado, which is where I'm based, where I'm from, where all my buses are from. Tons of Internationals, tons of Cummins. The occasional Cat, but I have not had a bad experience really with them, and I will say their parts are pretty cheap. International parts have gotten outrageously expensive. Let's look at these pictures though. So they pulled it into the bus barn, they took some blurry photos about nothing relevant, nice tires. Honestly, it's probably in great shape. Poor presentation though. Fair condition with some service rust. It would be great to see pictures of the chassis, right? We always want to see pictures of the frame and the chassis and the undercarriage when we are assessing for rust. Come on, we got to know what's up with that. It's a shame they didn't include that. They also don't include any pictures of the motor, but they do include pictures of the tires, which is cool, although we would love to know the date code on those tires, right? Because the purchase price of a bus, if it's got bad tires and needs new tires, that could be anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 to replace all the tires. So the purchase price of a bus really is related to the condition of the tires. These tires look like they have a lot of tread. It looks like the bus is probably still in service, and that bodes well. But if they're older tires and need replacing, that's something we'd want to know. So anyway, runs and drives good. But 230 miles or 30,000 miles is a lot. So we looked at Utah bus. How about these? Okay, so Ohio, what do we have going on here? These are vans, nothing exciting there. Let's look at 2 or 3, we'll do 3 more buses and see what we come up with on this website. So I want to find, look, another Utah. Should we look at that? Well, let's look at the special needs bus with the wheelchair lift, because they certainly have a really high asking price right now. And they have bids. So we're looking at a 2014. Okay, so one thing to pay attention to, so 2014, relatively new in the school bus world. If you are buying a bus or bidding on a bus and it's quite new, keep in mind you will be up against other potential bidders who are actually running bus companies, and they're looking for a bus to put back into commercial service, which means they're going to have deeper pockets, and they're also probably going to be fairly savvy about what buses they're bidding on, so they won't be afraid to bid up a bus that they're very interested in quite high. For people like you and I, we don't have to deal with the confines and the restraints of regulations that prohibit us from running a bus that is too old, right? You know, we can pretty much build out whatever we want as long as it still runs and drives. That adds a little bit, to me, more weight to the argument for buying an older bus, because you won't be competing with other commercial entities who want to buy that bus and put it back into commercial service. Now, that being said, those newer buses, if one strikes your fancy and you have the money and you really want something that's new, go for it, of course. That's just the way it goes. You'll have to be fighting against them. But for people like you and me, we're not putting it back into service, and we prefer the older buses, as I'm assuming maybe naively most of you do. We could stay away from those newer buses. But just for the sake of it, let's take a look at this one. So this is coming from Fayetteville, Georgia, not Arkansas. It's a 2014. It's got 7,800 hours, which is actually quite a bit given the mileage, but not insane. Ooh, I really like, if you look here, I really love when an auction includes a video. So should we look at that? Yeah. The video's cool. There's no sound, but that's a nice looking dash there. Looking good. And that's all we get, I guess. Well, we tried, you know. What are they going to tell us about this, though? Okay, air ride suspension, that's cool. Air ride driver's seat, we like that. Wheelchair lift, AC. They don't say the interior height, which would be cool, but a lot of times these special need buses will have a higher ceiling because the people who are working the wheelchairs or helping the students, it's nice to have headroom. It's hard to say if that's the case here, honestly. It looks like a clean bus, though. What is interesting is that's a 2014. Do they say why they're selling it? You know, Cummins. Well, it's the Cummins. I was gonna say if it was the Max Force, the International Max Force, I'd be like, that would explain why they're selling it, because that's a notoriously bad engine. And real quick, just to look at this. So if you're considering a bus with a wheelchair lift, especially if you want to do a roof raise, take a look at what's happening here around that wheelchair door. Do you see how the roof, right? Yeah, there's a thing there. If you do a roof raise, you're going to probably aesthetically want to make it look like the rest of your roof. I think that would make sense. But there's going to be a lot of fabrication involved in making it look that way. The other option, of course, is if you're cool with the door, extending the door. That's not the end of the world. It's pretty simple, actually. But if you don't want a big ass door on the side of your bus, or if you're doing a roof raise and don't want to deal with figuring that out, this door here could be a deal breaker or a deal maker. So that's just something to pay attention to. Let's get back there in the auction pool and see what the heck else is going on. Ooh, Michigan. Let's see if we can find a rusty one, huh? Oh boy. Okay, so Michigan, rusty bus. I bought a Michigan bus before. Not the best idea I've ever had. I'll be honest with you. We got a 2010 Thomas school bus with a wheelchair lift. Okay, we're up to $890. Still have 9 days left though, so whatever. Anything could happen. I love these MBE 900s. That's a Mercedes-Benz engine. I do like them. Some people don't, but I do. 93,000 miles. Heck yeah. It runs. Yeah, we like that. And the transmission is an Allison 2500, so it's an electronic transmission, 5-speed with overdrive. I need to improve my information on the Allison 2000 series. I think they might actually have 6-speed versions of that, but I don't know. If anyone knows, put it in the comments because I would love to be enlightened. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. So boom, side shots. So we got 3, 6, 9, 10 window bus. So we're probably looking at 32 feet long, 33 feet long, somewhere in there. Curious what that storage container is all about there. We got the batteries up front. The Safety Liner 2, this is a Thomas bus. Big one-piece windshield here, awesome visibility, expensive to replace, but really great visibility. This side view mirror setup has always made me laugh. It's funny. Oh, and let's talk about the flashers here on this bus. I've never had to deal with these before, but I believe this is a fiberglass front cap. If I'm wrong, someone let me know. But those flashers are really interesting, and I would love to get up close to them and really see how they work. I'm not sure how leak prone they would be or not, but curious about that. Another thing about this bus, so it's got that wheelchair door, and we were just talking about how that could be a deal breaker or a deal maker. If you look how it's done on this bus, it doesn't interfere with the roof line. It stops at the top of the window line, just like all of them, and we like that. And if you wanted a side door, you know, this to me would be a much more appealing option because you can extend that door with less fabrication. You can leave the door, you can do a roof raise, all these things, and it's gonna be a lot less work to deal with. Look at that. Typical looking bus, you know, no rust, looks good. So here's this front control. Let's see what's going on here. Yep, it's a bus. Okay, so we're good. I don't know. Let's take a look at everything else. You know, these interior pics or whatever. The engine, so when I'm looking at the engine, you know, I'm always just curious if it's looking clean. We don't see any oil leaks too bad. It looks like there might be a leak there. If there's a Zerk fitting though, maybe it's just grease getting out. Or it could be a seal on the steering gearbox leaking out. But that's all the photos we have to go with. What's my take on this? Well, mileage is low. The price right now is also very low. I am very curious why it's so cheap. Does anyone else have any ideas? Let's do a quick scan and make sure that there's nothing we're missing. Now, notoriously absent, right, are pictures of the undercarriage and frame, any of those chassis components that could be rusty. And not to be a jerk, but let's zoom in here on the frame. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's rust. There is definitely some rust there. But is it surface rust? Yeah. Is it worse than that? Hard to say. Maybe it's okay. I don't know. Let's get out of here. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies. And we will zoom out. Boop, boop, boop. Boom. And let's see what else we have left here. So another Michigan, well, those are seat covers. Some Utah buses. I don't know, what should we look at? I am feeling an affinity to some more Michigan buses to see. Let's see if we can find some pictures of a rusty frame and show you what we should look out for. So we got a 2010 Thomas, cool, wheelchair lift. That seems to be very common. 9 days left on this. So the reserve has been met and we're only at $1,000, so it will sell. But we have no idea what it will sell for. The mileage, boop, boop, I don't see mileage, yep, notoriously missing. It's a Thomas though, we're cool with that. It's got the Mercedes engine that we also like. It's a 2010, so it will have a fair bit of emissions controls on there, and it's an Allison 2500. I get the feeling this might be from the same school district selling the last one I looked at. I didn't really pay attention. But let's see what we got. So we're gonna look at the pictures because yeah, why waste time? Looks like a bus, cool with that. I don't see big rust happening or anything yet. Typical Freightliner stance. That wheelchair door that doesn't extend past the windows, which is nice for dealing with. And a lot of interior photos, which are cool, but let's be honest, this bus probably isn't going back to commercial service. Show us ones that make it good for a schoolie. I always think it's funny on these buses, they have dual cup holders. There's no seat here, that's the stairway. Bus jokes. Anyway, we'll keep looking. It's a good looking console though. The interior is fairly clean, and that bodes well. This engine does look cleaner than the last one. And actually, let's go ahead and zoom in, because if we look down here, do you remember how rusty that last one was? This one, there's definitely some surface rust happening here and there. That brake chamber looks bad, but those are actually pretty inexpensive to replace. But right now, that's looking not so shabby. Ooh, this side. Whoops. This is a little higher res though. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves here. The shock absorber should and can be replaced easily. This doesn't look too bad. I would hit it with a Scotch-Brite pad and paint it black. Same for down here. The leaf spring rust, honestly, not looking too bad. So at that point, you know, if this is not rusty, that's not what's left. Well, replace the brake chamber. And we're looking okay. Now this is the frame rail. That's the top and that's the bottom. So this is all frame. And I don't love that. And you can see here that paint edge. That's called rust jacking. So you have paint and you have steel. If you get rust in between the two, the rust will swell and flake the paint off. And well, that's what's happening there. So, but honestly, not that bad. The price, is there such thing as a good deal on a rusty bus? And I'm always saying no, right? A resounding no. But in this case, for $1,000, and if that's as bad as it gets, it might be good. But it is interesting, right? There are no other pictures of the underside of the bus. And really, we need to see what's going on, especially around those rear wheel wells. That is a tongue twister. Huh. We'll do one more, and I think that's gonna do it for this round, but maybe we pick this up again and we'll do a whole nother episode on gov deals. That's a whole nother playground. Before we do that though, what's our last bus? That's Canadian, let's stay away from that. Let's take a look at, let's see what's going on here. Why not? So we got 2007. I chose this because it's younger than 2010, and we like that. It's in Utah, so west/desert southwest-ish, dry zone. And yeah, that was why I chose it. 2007, here we go. 235,000 miles. That's a lot, but it's not insane. It's a Cat engine. So not totally in my wheelhouse, but not bad engines. They are confident though. They're saying this thing is excellent. So let's see. We will see what this better not be all the pictures they have. Only 6 photos. Okay. If you don't have a lot of photos and you're trying to get serious, you can always check the rivet lines around the rear wheels. So like, do you see this line of rivets? These ones are miscolored. That's because they're probably starting to rust. And the end of this fender flare feels kind of strange. This side is very pristine. This must be inside their bus repair facility. Wow, useless photo, right? Bad presentation. Also, people love taking photos of that. Again, not that handy for us. Just tells us nothing. And for the last photo, now this is nice. That's a very clean looking engine. Whoa. I mean, whoa. And everything back here, like these are frame rails on the left and the right, the bumper. I see no rust, very good sign. It's a 2007 Cat. I would want to know the model engine. I don't know my Cats enough to know. So it's a C7, I'm fairly certain, but I don't know which model of C7, if it's the A cert or what. Maybe someone out there can identify this and comment it in the comments. But dang, that looks clean. So so I'm glad we're ending on this because this is actually a relative, relatable, useful bus to take a look at, because this would have me on the fence, you know. I want more information because it's checking some boxes, the engine looks clean, there's no rust, the condition, they even list it as excellent, for crying out loud. Now, a lot of times, by the way, there will be contact information listed here in the auctions. And right here, so you see this number, the 435-645-5600. Call it today. If you call that, likely they will put you through to an administrator of some kind. You're not going to get a lot of good information, but sometimes they'll patch you through, or that will be the line of the mechanic, the head mechanic, or the person who runs the school bus shop. And man, if you ever get through to that, just ask all your questions and get as much info as you can, because I've had some shop mechanics really look out for me and save me lots of time and money by pointing me in the right direction of which buses at an auction were good and which ones were bad. Boy, I think that's gonna do it for this video, but hey, in the next video, we're gonna take a look at Gov Deals. We're gonna pick up where this leaves off and see if we can't find some good buses out there. That's another great website to check, and it has a lot more East Coast buses. So if you're coming at this from the East Coast perspective, take a look at that. My name's Chuck Cassady. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next week.